Okay, well,
David Duff from Thorntons Recycling, please. Thank you.
not at all. Thanks very much, Chris, for having us. So what we're basically doing today is we're taking you on a quick live tour of our dry recycling facility in Thorntons Recycling. So basically it's just across the road. So we're just getting kitted up here and we're going to take you straight across and bring you inside. So some information just about what you're going to see today. This is basically the facility where the material comes to after you put it into your green recycling bin. So the items that you put into your recycling bin consist of paper, cardboard, cans, plastic bottles, and aluminium. Once the bin is collected at your house, it is collected in a bin lorry and taken to a site like this. This is one of 9 sites in Ireland, and it's one of Thorntons' 8 facilities for separated waste. This site that we're going to show you around now has a permit from Dublin City Council to operate. We operate 24 hours a day, or we have a permit to operate 24 hours a day, and we process 50,000 tonnes a year of mixed dry recycling. That equates to roughly 160 tonnes a day comes into this site. Okay, so we're just going inside here now. What we'll do is I'm going to walk to the start of the line, and I'll basically show you from the start of the facility just how it exactly all operates. One thing that you should know about this site is that, I said, all your dry recycling comes in here, and we'll separate it out so it is getting recycled and sent away to other companies. What we do with your material when it comes in is we have to mechanically sort it, and also we have quality control pickers on the lines as well. These staff, their job is basically to separate out the materials and make sure it's clean before we can export it. In this facility, we have 17 pickers on this line at the moment, and 16 of them pickers into the green bin. That shouldn't be there. So I'm nearly there now. It's a long walk to get to the start of the line. We operate this site on 2 shifts. So we start in the morning at 7 o'clock. And at the moment we have a half an hour changeover between our 2 shifts. So our second shift then starts at 3 o'clock. Okay. So I'm going to turn the screen around now and I'll just show you what the start of our process looks like. Okay, sorry, apologies. So basically, when the dry recycling comes into our site, it is tipped out in an area like this on the ground and stockpiled into the area here. The first stage of our process is we've got an electronic crane that picks up the dry recycling and feeds it into a bag opener. The bag opener basically sets the speed for the plant, and it opens up any plastic bags to loosen the material. The speed for this plant is set roughly at about 8 tonnes an hour, and all the material is conveyed up along this conveyor belt at 8 tonnes an hour and comes on to our first stage picking line. So our first stage picking line is where we've got basically 6 lads here, and their first job is to remove off the rubbish. So as I said, unfortunately, there are some materials put into the green recycling bin that shouldn't be there. Approximately at the moment, it's adding up to about 32% of what's been coming into the green bin shouldn't be there. So you can see the lads here picking out black bags. They'll pick out rubbish, they'll pick out duvets, textiles, they'll pick out food, and they'll drop it into the first chute. And that chute then basically brings the material onto the floor here. Now this material isn't still going to go to landfill. What we do with it is we bring it to another one of our facilities and we produce solid recovered fuel out of it. That fuel is given to the cement industry and they basically burn it as a substitute for coal. So once the lads has picked out the rubbish, the second stage is that they pick out the clear film. So the clear film that we're getting out of this line is mostly commercial, and this is what it looks like. So when you see this clear film, it is mostly clean, it has very little colour on it, it has very little labels on it, and it's very large sheets of plastic. So that's the first item that we've actually now segregated for recycling. The next stage of the plant is we want to separate out the cardboard. So I'll just take you over this way here now. So the cardboard is separated out using a machine called an OCC screen. So what we can see now into this machine is as the material comes off the conveyor belt, it falls into the screener. Any small materials falls through the holes and goes into the conveyor belt below it. And any large pieces of cardboard remains on the top of the screen and goes off the top end. So you can see now we're getting nice clean pieces of cardboard separated from the rest of your recycling. As I said, The machinery does some of the work, it gets through the tonnage, but it doesn't get the quality that we always need. So at the end of every picking line, we have a quality control person. So the quality control person here on the cardboard line, his job is to make sure that nothing passes by except clean cardboard. Once he's happy he's took out any other plastic that may have been in the packaging, it falls into a separate bay below us. So here now you can see what clean cardboard looks like. Again, this is ready to be baled up and sent for recycling. So at the moment, at this stage of the plant, we have already seen a lot of the rubbish coming out. We have already seen the clear film being separated, and now we've seen the clean cardboard, how it's separated. So we'll take you through the other side and we'll show you how we separate the bottles from the paper. So this part here is basically our bottles and our paper all going up into a machine to be separated out. The machine is called a Ballistic Separator, and it basically works like a swimmer's legs. It bounces up and down. Two-dimensional material such as paper and plastic films bounces off the top of the conveyor belt, and three-dimensional material such as bottles and cans rolls backwards. The three-dimensional material goes to the left side of the plant, and the two-dimensional material continues along this side. I'll just quickly show you what it looks like inside this machine, if I can. So you can see the material bouncing. That motion will help separate the materials into two-dimensional and three-dimensional. So out the top of this machine, we have largely our two-dimensional material coming out, and this is basically your paper and your soft plastics. So the next job that this plant has to do is we have to separate this paper from the soft plastics. And this is done using an... Apologies about that, everybody. We just lost one of our streams. I think we're back now. So the optical sorter, the near-infrared optical sorter, is basically using laser technologies to separate materials. So the first part of it is we have to spread out the material, the paper and the plastic, onto a conveyor belt and make sure nothing is landing on top of each other. Okay? So you can see here now, everything is spread out as much as possible over a 2.5 meter conveyor belt. It is then fed into the optical sorter machine, and we've basically got a row of lasers beaming down, identifying the different polymer types. So this machine is programmed to recognize all different types of plastic. When a piece of plastic is recognized, a signal is sent to an air jet, which is based at the end of the conveyor belt, and it ejects the piece of plastic. So what you can see here is the plastic is being jumped up, is being thrown up out of the vapor stream, and the paper drops off the edge of the conveyor belt. So this machine basically keeps on separating the plastic. It is approximately 95% accurate, and it's with what it hits. Okay. So you can see all of the plastic, the soft plastic, being jumped upwards. Now, one thing to note with this machine is it obviously works by visual, by lasers. So as you can see, the conveyor belt is black. So if there is any black plastic put into the dry recycling bin, this is why it will not be recognised. And it will end up contaminating our mixed paper. At the end of our conveyor belt, you can see here now, this is the soft plastic that is basically coming out at the end of the conveyor belt. So all of this material shouldn't have been in the dry recycling bin, it should have been in the black residual bin. Now, as I said earlier, this material will not go to landfill. What we do with it is we bring it across to another Thorntons facility where we process it and we produce SRF out of it, a solid recovered fuel. I'll show you basically what happens with the paper. So when the paper falls out of our optical sorting machine, it comes down onto a conveyor belt below us here. And basically, as the paper passes our quality control staff, they basically have to pick out any contamination that's in it.
So here they're picking out items such as any food, any small bits of plastic that was missed, and of course any black plastic that was missed by the optical sorter. So as you can see now, we've got nice clean fibre or paper coming off this conveyor belt. So again, now we've separated out our paper from the rest of your dry recycling. Over the other side of our line, which is our three-dimensional line, your cans and your bottles are being fed through another optical sorter. And this optical sorter is basically set to recognise your mineral bottles and your milk bottles. And it blows the milk bottles down and the mineral bottles up, so we get them falling out this way. So over this side, we have our mineral bottles falling out. We have a fan blowing off any light contamination. And again, we have a quality control picker picking out anything that's not a PET bottle. I'll show you what that machine looks like and just how it operates. So the optical sorters, we can program them to select different types of material depending on what we want to eject out of the stream. So this optical sorter, you can see, is basically blowing out the milk bottles and also the mineral bottles. So you can see the mineral bottles jumping up. And when you look at the screen or the control panel for this machine, we're basically looking at the various different types of plastic types that we're recognizing. And this little arrow here tells me that I'm blowing out PET bottles, which is mineral, up, and I'm blowing HD bottles down. And it basically gives me a tonnage of what we're collecting every day.
Those are lasers that are...
Yes, they're basically using laser technology or near infrared technology. So basically it beams down a set of lasers across the conveyor belt. It recognizes the plastic type that is programmed into the system. And then the air jet is activated to blow that fleet of plastic out of the waste stream.
That is absolutely amazing.
So it's quite cool. This machine works as much as we want. It will work 24 hours without a break. The only thing you have to do is you have to maintain it. So we have to keep the windows and the air jets clean and clear so that the machine can see and blow out the recycling as well. So there's a maintenance carried out on this machine every day to ensure that it is operating at optimum. And as I said, the machine is approximately 95% accurate when you maintain it correctly. So at this stage then we have basically separated out our bottles as well, our PET bottles and our mineral bottles. The next material that we want to select out is your steel can. And that is on use.
Just sorry, Dave, just one quick question there to the plastic bottles. Do we need to take the bottle caps off the bottles when we throw them into the recycling bin?
It's not necessary. The next stage of recycling, so when we send the bottles to another facility for actually recycling the bottles, they're basically going to shred the bottles and put them through a separation process. And that process will separate the lids from the labels, from the PET, which is what they're looking for. So it's not necessary. But what you do need is, you do need to have the bottle empty. If you don't have a bottle empty and there's some liquid left in it, the optical sorting machine will miss it. It will recognize the bottle, but the air jet will not be strong enough to lift the plastic bottle out of the waste stream, and it will get mixed. I'll show you how we solve that problem down the line here in another second.
Cool.
Okay, so we'll just go back here to the steel cans. The steel cans is lifted and separated out using a magnet. So you can just see the steel cans being lifted up. They're brought to the end of the magnet, which is turned off, and then this drops the steel cans down into the bay below us. So the steel cans look like that before we actually bale them up. And I'll show you what the bales look like when we're finished.
So steel cans, that's your food cans, right? The
Food cans,
cat
dog
food.
food cans. Exactly. Yeah. Your aluminium cans, which will be your drinks cans, such as your Coca-Cola or your beer cans, are separated using a machine called an eddy current. Now it basically works the exact opposite to a magnet. Now, apologies at the moment, our site there's a stoppage on it. They'll start it up in a few seconds, but the same thing is once the stoppage happens, all our workers, they clean up around our stations, they just tidy up and they get ready for the stoppage to be taken off. It'll only take a few moments. The eddy current... Sorry?
Well, no, go ahead.
The eddy current, as I said, works in the opposite to a magnet. It basically rejects or kicks away the aluminium. So in this case, the waste falls down into the first compartment here, and then the aluminium jumps across the barrier into the second compartment. And we separate out the aluminium purely using the machine. And the aluminium then looks like, you can kind of see some of it into the bay below. And and it takes us about a day to fill up a bale or a bay of aluminium. Sorry, they're still trying to figure out what's the stoppage on the plant. They'll get back to it.
No worries. Well, I've got a couple of questions on the list here.
Okay.
The lasers, how cool is that? Okay, we already answered that. What's the number one issue? Like when I was dropped out of the feed, I believe you mentioned how much percentage of your waste is actually waste rather than recyclable. Like so,
Yep.
maybe elaborate on that for a second.
Okay, well, basically at the moment we're actually seeing a slight increase in the recycling that's coming from households. So last month in April we noticed a 11% increase in the recyclings. However, unfortunately, we're also noticing an increase in the contamination. So the contamination is jumping up now to around 32%. If you can hear that. So basically, yeah, the contamination is a little bit higher than that we would like. So we're just trying to get people to educate them to what should be going into the green bin and how much work is involved cleaning it up. I've shown them the likes of this facility and what's involved in it. If you want to go back up and running, so I'll finish this part where it's noisy and we'll answer other questions outside.
Cool. It's getting loud again, folks. This is
Okay.
I got
So this is our eddy current, and you'll see any aluminium that's on it is basically going to be thrown over the other barrier. Now it does mix some of them, but again we get an awful lot of the aluminium out, and any items that is missed, there's a picker down here now further on to be able to get them out. So you can see the aluminium now just being thrown over the barrier. Now if any aluminium does fall down, we have a picker at this stage of the conveyor belt, and he catches the aluminium here and he drops it down his chute. The other items that this picker is picking out is he's picking out the bottles that has some liquid in them. So as I said, the optical sorting machine will not lift out the bottles once there's liquid in them. So this guy's job is to find that bottle and lift it out so we can recycle it. He's also lifting out here pots, tubs and trays. Now the pots, tubs and trays are a type of plastic called polypropylene, and we've given him a set of instructions as to what they look like, and he basically picks these out by hand. So these are rigid type plastics. So out of all of our pickers on the conveyor belt, out of the 17 guys that's here, this is the only picker that's actually picking out recycling. The rest of them has to pick out the rubbish that has been put in the bin by mistake. So it's a tough job. The last part of our plant then is we still have some paper left in this 3D stream. So what we do is we put it through another optical sorter, and this optical sorter is set to recognize cardboard, as you can see here. So we're blowing out the cardboard and the paper. And at the very end of the line here, we've basically got our pickers, and they're picking out and cleaning up. So if they find any bottles, they remove them. If they find any rubbish, they drop them down here, and then we get clean paper coming off the conveyor belt. Okay.
cool.
So basically at this stage of our plant now, you've seen how everything has been separated out. It's separated out into different bays, and when the bays are full, we load them into the baler. And I'll just show you what the baler looks like here. So each of the waste streams are baled separately into individual bales, and we then have a quality control station where every bale is checked for quality. So I'll just show you what the baler looks like. So our baler machine goes up to the height of the building, the material goes into the top, and it's basically compacted into bales of this size. So at the moment there's aluminium going through, hence the noise. And all of the aluminium is basically then going to be checked and put in the stockpile. I'll show you the stockpile of our paper behind us. So this is paper that we would have produced earlier today that has come in, has gone through the whole process, and it's basically your mixed papers. We will have some cardboard in it, but it's all fibre. But again, what we're looking for here is quality. So what we're trying to get to is from all of the contamination that's coming into the bales, or coming into the incoming material, we have to get to this kind of quality in order to be able to ship this material so it will be recycled somewhere else. So as you can see in this bale here, there's no plastic visible on the outside. We would do spot checks on this every day, and if we find 3 small pieces of plastic on a bale, it will be rejected and sent back over. So quality is very important.
Do you know what kind of stuff gets made out of this?
The paper will go back over to paper mills, normally in India at the moment for recycling, and they'll just remake it back into paper rolls, which will go back into any paper products such as newspapers, etc.
Right.
What you're looking at here at the moment is our cardboard bales. So again, very similar to a paper. It's all baled up separately. It's all checked for quality, and this is the quality that we're looking to get. Nice, clean, dry bales of material that is going to be then sold for recycling. The cardboard then will be sent to other paper or other cardboard mills that specialise in recycling cardboard, and they'll recycle it back into fresh cardboard products. One of the main issues that we have with recycling, or with dealing with the recycling, is contamination, as we mentioned earlier. A lot of the pickers in here, that's their primary job, is to pick out the contamination. And one of the bits that is confusing for the general public is soft plastics. So if people need information of what is recyclable in Ireland, you should go on to MyWaste, or www.mywaste.ie. It's a national website that explains what you can put into your green bin. And it explains that you're allowed to put in rigid plastics. And by rigid plastics, we mean things like bottles, cans, and containers. Bottles and containers. And I'll just show you, here's a load that came in from a civic amenity site. This is all rigid plastic. So what we're looking at here is, we're looking at your HDPE bottles, we're looking at PET mineral bottles, we're looking at food trays, we're looking at your sweet boxes. The one thing with the food trays, you can see these ones are nice and clean. That's the way they should be. There should be no food contamination or residue in them, because if you're trying to recycle plastic into other plastic products, well, you can't recycle it if it's contaminated with food. So the likes of this isn't ideal.
Oh dear. Do you see that the way there was still a bit of soft plastic stuck to that hard plastic box? That always worries me when I'm at home. You know, when you have a tray of meat or so, and you clean that out, but you can't get rid of all the plastic around the edges. Like, does that matter?
Ideally, it would be great to separate it. There's two different types of plastic in this. You've got the rigid plastic and the soft plastic. The soft plastic ideally should be ripped off and placed into the black bin, and the rigid plastic into your recycling bin. And that's what the outlets would prefer as well, because what they're looking for is the rigid plastic when they're recycling it. Their systems will have to separate them out, and that all adds cost to the process, and it does reduce the quality. So yeah, try to separate them as best you can. Something like that, which the plastic has been ripped off it, is the ideal way to present it. I'll show you what the soft plastic looks like, and that we're taking off the plant every single day. So this here is the residual soft plastic that is coming off our plant. It's a mixture of 7 different polymer types of plastics, and often more. You will have laminates in here which are quite difficult to recycle at the best of times. So at the moment, what we're doing with this is we have to get this out of the recycling bin, and we're bringing it to another facility where we're, as I said, we're producing solid recovered fuel out of it. So it's getting one more life. This will not go to landfill. However, it does cost a lot of money to get it out, and it is a risk that if we don't get this material out of the process, it will contaminate our paper bales. So it is quite important that people doesn't put it into the recycling bin.
Keep your soft plastics out of the recycling bin, folks. Although this is one type of soft plastic, the LDPE kind of bigger bags, that there is a market for those, right?
There is. So I'll show you what them bales look like now. LDPE is basically low density polyethylene. It is typically of what you'd find in shrink wrap, or you'd have a lot of it from commercial businesses. So the bales are kind of blocked in at the moment. I'll show you from a distance what it looks like. So basically the LDPE bales is that one's up there. It's a lot of clear film that comes from commercial premises. Householders does have some, but very little quantity. So mostly the recyclable LDPE is coming from commercial businesses. We also can separate out coloured LDPE, but again, there are large sheets of coloured LDPE that's coming from commercial premises, typically not householders. One of the large reasons for this is to do with contamination and quality. But we're basically sending this material away to be recycled. The outlets want large sheets that they can sort quickly and that they know has a very low probability of contamination. When you have household plastics that are very, very small, it's highly likely that they can be contaminated, and that causes issues to the recycling process further downstream. So although some household plastics can technically be recycled, economically and physically it's very difficult to extract them, which makes them unviable to do. Now, we're not talking huge tonnage here. The soft plastics are very, very light in comparison to your rigid plastics. So in Ireland, 2 years ago, we basically put forward a system whereby we would separate out we would allow householders, should I say, to put in the rigid plastics into the recycling bin, therefore putting more heavy plastics into the bin that we can automatically separate, and taking out the light soft plastics. And although when you have them in a large pile, it looks like a lot, but weight-wise, it's not going to cost the household that much to put them into the black bin. Now, one thing just to mention at this point in relation to contamination, yes, we see about 32% contamination in the green bin at the moment, but we also see a lot of recyclables in the black bin, which is the waste bin. That should not be there. So basically, householders just need to double check the list on www.mywaste.ie to see what should go into each bin and basically adhere to it and hopefully reduce their waste costs. I'll just show you, because I'm standing here beside it. We've got a bale here of aluminium that has come out. I think these are always quite cool when you see all the aluminium together. Now, to make one bale of aluminium, or 1 ton of aluminium, you're looking at needing approximately 220,000 aluminium cans. So it takes a lot of cans just to make 1 ton of this material.
Aluminium is one of the most recyclable packing materials that we use, right? It's like some 99.9% or so of it gets used again.
Exactly, yeah. It's aluminium is 99.9% recyclable. I think what they're saying is that the paint is the only bit that burns off it, or the colouring, and then you can reuse aluminium over and over again. It doesn't lose its quality. Whereas items such as paper, when you recycle it, paper can typically be recycled up to around 7 times, because every time you recycle paper, the fibres in the paper parts get shorter and shorter. So you recycle paper each time into a lower grade of material. So eventually paper will end up being recycled into items such as egg carton boxes and toilet tissue.
Is there a way to, like, when you, like, because I actually wonder when I throw my recycled paper stuff into the recycling bin, you know, at what point then do people figure out how many times it's been recycled already?
You can't really figure out how many times it's been recycled. But what's basically is, you can't find out how many times it's been recycled in Ireland, but generally in Ireland and countries like America, we use very fresh paper, or very virgin paper, so it has a lot of original tree or fibre content in it. It would be typical of other third world countries that would have the lower grades of paper. So
okay, that's interesting. Eh?
yeah, so typically in Ireland and Europe, we would have a very high quality of paper. We would get the first couple of uses out of it. So basically, I'm just after leaving the shed there. That's the process in a quick tour. So I suppose, Chris, if you have any questions or that has come in, I'll try my best to answer them.
There's a lot of information in that already. Somebody just made the point. You know your stuff, hey? Yes, this guy knows his stuff. I'm super chuffed that you agreed to do this with us. Like, you know, it's in lockdown. It's this is the closest thing we get to a nice little walk around somewhere else. Like, you know, so yeah. I do like. So what's your pet hate in terms of contamination in the recycling bin?
Well, I suppose you're looking at, we've basically got, as I said, we've got 16 pickers there, and our job is to pick out the rubbish. It's a tough job, and we're just trying to make it a little bit easier. We will always need them, because as I said, the machines get roughly to about 95% quality. To get to that 98, 99%, we need the quality pickers there. But it's to try to put in the right materials. We see coming into that picking line every single day, textiles, duvets, nappies, unfortunately. We see food, we see garden waste. Every type of rubbish that we would typically see in the black bin, we also see in the green bin. So it's just to try to make the job a little bit easier for the guys in there. So we'd love just to get the quality to improve, and that's across the whole country.
Cool. There's a question there, and what should we recycle more of? I think, yeah, what do you see in the black bins that should go more into the green bins? The typical ones that we're seeing in the black bins is definitely steel and aluminium. So at the moment, I think there's the EPA did characterization studies in 2018 on the black bin, the green bin and the brown bin for householders and commercial businesses. But from the household side, if I remember right, they had a 5% steel or metal content still in the black bin. So again, metal and aluminium should be in the green recycling bin. The other material that we've seen in the black bin was, there's 2 other materials that was in large fractions, was plastic bottles. So PET and HDPE bottles, that again should always be in the green bin. And the last thing we've seen a lot of in the black bin was food waste, unused food. So if we ever show you a tour of that site, we can actually see whole fruit, whole potatoes, whole vegetables coming out of the black bin still, which really should either not be purchased, eaten, or put into the brown compostable bin. Yeah, composting is going to be a big thing, I think, with everybody being at home and getting into gardening and so on. There's there's definitely more interest. I'm getting more interest in our kind of composting instructions and so on. And we're looking at actually live streaming a composting workshop with the Irish Peatlands Conservation Council, because one of their big issues is that people buy peat for compost and they could just recycle and compost their food waste, like, you know.
Yeah, and people can do composting at home quite easily if they have a garden space. If it's done correctly, it doesn't attract vermin. However, if you don't have the garden space, feel free to get a compost bin off Thorntons. We'll gladly take your compost. So
Thorntons have a really good compost bin. I can actually attest to that. Where should people go to look up the information on what can be recycled? It can be a bit confusing.
The best thing to do is, as I said, there's each waste company has their own website, but a lot of the waste companies are part of an organisation called the Irish Waste Management Association, and we liaise with the government and various authorities on what to do in terms of best practices. So if people need to find out information on what goes into the recycling bin, the best website to check out is www.mywaste.ie. It's a national website and it gives you information on what should go into the green recycling bin.
Cool. My connection must be bad today. I missed that, but I assume the answer went out there. Like, so you can look it up on your website and also on. Yeah. Okay. Great.
And another part is, Chris, if people looks up. Sorry, I got you there. Another part is if people want to get some information about facts and what the recycling statistics are, they can look up the EPA website, so www.epa.ie, and they've got very good characterization surveys of what's typically been seen in household bins. And it just gives people an idea on how to improve.
Cool. Yeah, the EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency, people, for those who don't know. They are genuinely super informative and want to actually protect the environment. Believe it. Okay, yeah, there's one issue, of course, with composting in apartment buildings and so on. And I've seen a live video of a lady who had a little composting thing going on her balcony. That might be not your thing, but on the other hand, it's possible. Better probably to use one of the big the composting services such as Thorntons. Yeah, I'm out. That's a lot of information there already. Like, have you anything to add?
No, look, I'd just like to say, if there is any questions, you can forward them on to us. You can forward them into info@thorntons-recycling.ie, and somebody will come back and we'll answer your queries as best we can. And at this point, I'd just like to say thank you to yourself, Christian, for giving us the opportunity to host this. It's hopefully everybody has found it somewhat enjoyable and they take something out of it useful.
Judging by the comments, people loved it. This is my second time around because we tested it last Monday, and I'm still fascinated by it. Like, you know, this is I think it's something you should do more often. I think people would really latch into it, especially at the moment with kids being stuck at home and so on. Like, you know, this is something you wouldn't see every day. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're done. I would ask you if you could save the live stream to your story, so people that missed it now can have a look at it for the next 24 hours. You can in Instagram. There's a feature where you can. Review something, and check out Voice Ireland and the Friends of the Earth. I'm going to plug those two NGOs that are doing a lot on waste and working on the zero waste concept as well, and so on. Like, you know, they have loads of stuff going on at the moment as well. Oh, hang on, there's one more question. Should we choose glass packaging over plastic packaging?
If we have a choice. It depends. Not all plastic is bad. Some plastics are, when they're used appropriately, they're very good. They're lightweight. They save on transport costs. So it really does depend on what you're using it for. So you can't just outline or blanket ban say all plastic or all glass. You have to really assess what it's being used for and which is the best case for the person to make the decision themselves.
Okay, that's going to lead us into another podcast. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
There'll be a lot of questions coming in. I think we leave it there, David. And thanks very much. And I'll hopefully talk to you soon again.
We'll talk to you again. Thank you very much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks everybody for joining in as well.